Poland and Germany are at war with the Soviet Union. The United States and Japan are engaged in a space race together. If World War II had not happened, the history of the world could have been very different. There are many reasons why World War II could have been prevented, but let's focus on the most realistic changes that could have averted the conflict. One of these changes is a shift in global attitudes towards fascism and communism. After the end of World War I, the Soviet Union believed that in order to survive against the Western capitalist powers, it should try to encourage communism among the people of Western countries and support revolutions in those countries. Lenin, the leader of the Soviet Union, witnessed a world where his people were forced to fight in World War I and lose their lives, while the wealthy and powerful became even stronger and wealthier. Even before the 1917 revolution in Russia, the ideology of communism was spreading throughout the world. From that perspective, during World War I, Hitler believed that communist spies and traitors were endangering the German government. As I mentioned before, Hitler was correct in his belief because the Soviet Union was trying to spread the ideology of communism everywhere. In this fictional scenario where World War II did not happen, Hitler fears the rise of communist countries. Communist revolutionary movements are spreading in the West, even in the United States, where communist pressure is part of the national discourse on politics. However, the rapid and strong spread of communism among the people of France, England, and Germany threatens the old imperial governments, and they have to take action to prevent it. France and England see that they have more in common with Hitler and his fascist government than with Lenin and communism. It is important to note that this is also true in real history. In our fictional scenario, Hitler, out of fear of a communist revolution in Germany, starts building a powerful and large army. But this time, the German army is moving eastward, not westward. Germany enters into an agreement with Poland, whereby in exchange for regaining access to the Polish corridor and annexing the eastern part of it, Germany will assist Poland in the joint reconstruction of mutual interests between Poland and Lithuania. It is worth noting that after World War I and based on the Treaty of Versailles, the Polish corridor, which provided Poland with access to the Baltic Sea and separated East Prussia from the rest of Germany, was handed over to Poland. Additionally, 1 year after the end of World War I, Poland engaged in a war with Lithuania, but due to international pressure, Poland came to the negotiating table and signed a peace treaty. The joint reconstruction of mutual interest between Poland and Lithuania would grant Poland access to the Baltic Sea. Therefore, in this scenario, Hitler's agreement is seen favorably by the Polish. However, this agreement is more beneficial to Hitler because the joint reconstruction of these mutual interests would serve as a significant shield between Germany and the Soviet Union. Hitler intends to launch an attack on the Soviet Union. His attack on the Soviet Union is a two-stage plan. First, he needs to eliminate communist groups within Germany. He aims to gain control over the oil-rich regions in the southern parts of the Soviet Union. If Germany intends to compete with France and England, it needs to have control over more territories. After the end of World War I, Germany lost all its colonies in Africa, which weakened its economy. England and France are pleased that Hitler's attention is focused towards the east and see no serious threat from him. In fact, Germany could become their ally. Then, the German army reunifies East Prussia and moves towards Poland, but this time with the permission of Poland. The German and Polish armies forcefully take control of Lithuania, establishing the mutual interest between Poland and Lithuania once again after 150 years. However, the Soviet Union is aware that Germany's actions are preparing for an attack on them. The economic situation in the Soviet Union is very poor. but they are preparing themselves for war. When the war between these two countries begins, two key factors hinder the Soviet Union's victory against Germany. Firstly, the German forces benefit from the support of the British and French air and naval forces. With the help of British and French fighter planes, the Soviet Air Force is completely destroyed. The second key factor in this scenario is the lack of support from the United States. It is important to note that during World War II, the United States provided significant military aid to the Soviet Union. However, in our fictional scenario, the United States has no reason to help the Soviet Union because the only reason for American assistance to the Soviet Union during World War II was the common goal of defeating Germany. The existence of Communist Soviet Union continues to pose a greater threat to the United States. Without American assistance, the Red Army is defeated within a few months, and Stalin flees to the eastern regions of the Soviet Union. Hitler is satisfied with the capture of Moscow and sees no reason to continue the attack towards eastern Russia. With the occupation of oil-rich regions, agricultural lands, and mineral-rich areas, Germany regains its economic power, and tensions gradually rise between Germany and other European countries. With the weakening of the alliance between Germany and other countries, a race for amendments begins in Europe. On the other hand, the bad fortune of the Soviet Union persists, as its entire army is engaged in the war against Germany. Japan easily defeats China and, after gaining complete control over China, turns its attention towards the Pacific Ocean and the United States. Japan's expansionist ambitions threaten the interests of England and the United States in the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, the United States prevents the sale of oil to Japan because Japan mostly purchases its oil from the United States, and without oil, Japan cannot continue its attacks in Southeast Asia. In the United States, the Great Depression turns into an economic recession. During World War II, the American economy progressed rapidly, but without the war. The pace of economic improvement in the United States requires more time. However, in this scenario, there is a factor that leads to the economic improvement of the United States. If Japan wants to reach the oil-rich Indonesia, it must remove the United States from the Pacific Islands and territories. Japan needs to eliminate American military bases in the Philippines, and it also needs to gain control over British colonies in the Pacific Ocean. Due to the distance of the main British bases and the lack of American assistance, Japan easily becomes the owner of British colonies. Then, through a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan attacks the United States and destroys a significant portion of America's Pacific Fleet. Subsequently, the Japanese Navy begins to attack all European colonies in the Pacific Ocean, and Japan reaches Indonesia and obtains all the necessary oil resources. With its growing power, Japan enters into negotiations with European powers, including Hitler, and asks for their assistance in the war against Japan in the Pacific Ocean. As Hitler knows that European powers will become weaker by losing their colonies to Japan, he refuses to help them. In a matter of weeks, Japan gains control over all regions of the Pacific Ocean, including the last remaining American military base in the Philippines. In this scenario, the United States enters into war with Japan. As per this scenario, the United States does not engage in a war with Germany in the Atlantic Ocean and does not provide significant assistance to European countries. Instead, it sends most of its naval fleet from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. The United States initiates its battle against Japan because it needs to focus all its power on fighting Japan. Japan gradually retreats as the United States exerts its full force. The United States surrounds Japan completely and prevents the entry of food supplies into the country, forcing Japan to accept defeat. In this war, the United States does not use atomic bombs. Instead, in this scenario, it is Germany and England who will be the first to use atomic bombs. However, this event is supposed to occur years later. In this scenario, the world is not in ruins like after World War II. The Soviet Union has become a weak country, while Germany and the United States have become global powers. As the British naval forces roam the waters near Germany, Hitler cannot achieve his desires. He fears the alliance of the naval forces of France and England. Therefore, before launching his attack on England and France, he sends his representatives to the United States to negotiate with President Truman. Truman promises Hitler that since America is exhausted after a long war with Japan, if Germany attacks France or England, America will not intervene. Furthermore, since both France and England possess atomic weapons, America does not mind reducing the number of countries with atomic bombs. And it is willing to target the atomic weapons of England and France towards Germany instead of the United States. However, if Hitler manages to remove England and France from his path, Germany will become the most powerful atomic power in the world and will take control of all of Europe. Hitler initiates his attack on France through Belgium and begins bombarding France. Truman keeps his promise and does not intervene. But he orders America to strengthen its military and rapidly increase its stockpile of atomic bombs. What do you think would have happened if World War II didn't occur? Please share your thoughts.